To pull the automatic transmission pan off, there's going to be a bunch of bolts around the outside here. So I'm going to use an impact to take them off. Don't use that to tighten them up. You will warp the pan. I've taken most of them out. I'm going to take that one out. I put this one on just to cover the hole because I got the wrong filter. But if you look up in here, this is all your transmission shifting solenoids. This is your valve body. This is a Allison transmission. The other thing I want to do is I want to come along here on this pan rail and clean this really good because I don't want any crud in there. Worst enemy of any automatic transmission is dirt, so we don't want that. Right over here, that's the spin-on filter. That one's going to be changed a little more regular. When you drop the pan, you obviously have to drain the fluid. So you're doing a transmission oil change. You're not doing a flush. If you do a flush, a lot of times that'll cause you problems. What'll happen is you'll flush it. If you go to some of those places, they'll say, oh yeah, flush this transmission, and then you go to leave and the transmission don't work no more. Has to do with washing clutch material out of the clutch packs. Here's the filter. This Lube Guard assembly goo is essentially automatic transmission assembly lube. It's like green grease type stuff. What you want to do, this seal right here goes up in the transmission to seal the filter to the transmission. And I'm going to go ahead and lube this. Usually you have to pull the filter out, and then you got to get a pry bar in there because the seal comes off. Usually, a lot of times it'll stay in the transmission because it gets kind of hard. You always want to change that before you put the new one in. Like I said, put a good coating of that in there. I don't want to leave a bunch of excess in there. The stuff will mix with ATF, so it's not a huge thing. But there again, it's Lube Guard assembly goo. Go to any of your friendly neighborhood parts houses. They will have this, and it works good. There's a hole right up in here that this goes into. This is going to set just like this. And basically going to push it up in there tight before you put the oil pan on. And there's a magnet right here. I clean this out really good. Lots of brake clean. Come over here. I clean the bottom side. I want to make sure that's perfectly clean. This is what the gasket looks like. It's actually a reusable gasket. I'm going to lay that here. If you look at these washers here, you really can't over torque it, but you can. So be careful when you put it on. The big thing, when you bolt this on the bottom of the trans, you want to torque it, say here, 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 here. Yeah, do like a crisscross pattern. That's going to bring it on evenly. But the big thing, especially when you deal with automatic transmissions, make sure they're clean. All right, I'm going to put my automatic transmission pan on. I went to Napa and bought a filter. They sold me a filter for a deep pan. There's not much difference between the shallow pan and the deep pan. But when it sets up here kind of like this, if you can see how it kind of sets flush, if you will, got kind of an angle to it. I want to take my oil pan bolts, get one started. Another way to tell if it's an Allison transmission, if you look right on the bottom, it says Allison transmission. So if it says Allison, it's probably a 1000 Allison. If it does not say that, it's probably a 4L80E, 4L60E. 4L60E you're going to find in a small block type engine scenario. The 4L80 you'll find in a big block. You get to the diesel, you're going to find a Allison 1000. Pretty bulletproof transmission anyways. So when I do this, make sure that my gasket lines up. And by the way, this is a reusable gasket. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring each side up evenly. This is very hard to show on a camera because I'm on the floor rather than on a lift. Then I'm going to put all the bolts in, get them all started, kind of like this, all the way around. Also, before you put that on, and I did that before, but I went around to clean the pan rail, where the pan rail meets the bottom of the transmission. The best thing is an extension and socket so you don't cross thread stuff, because this is aluminum. You will over torque this if you use a ratchet to bring them up. Okay, I'm going to torque my transmission bolt. They torque to 18 foot-pounds, which is 216 foot-pounds. So what you want to do is you want to do a crisscross pattern like this. There's one. Go the one right next to it. Transmission pan is torqued. Notice there's these look like big dents in each corner. Nothing to worry about, kind of how they are. It will not drain the whole pan, because you look at the pan and that oil pan seal is actually recessed. So when you take it out, there's going to be some leftover transmission fluid in it. 15 millimeter, this torques to 25 foot-pounds. We're going to change the spin-on ATF filter, 1000 Allison. I'm going to use this Lube Guard assembly goo. Works pretty good. It mixes with ATF, so that's why I kind of like this stuff. Kind of like Vaseline, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a nice coating all the way around the O-ring. I like to have this ready, so when I spin the old one off, I can put the new one on. I need some sort of strap wrench like this. And it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Put a drain pan underneath it before you do it. You're going to leak a little bit of ATF, maybe. Usually does more when you haven't done the oil pan filter. This one's been pretty much sucked dry because we drain the other first. I want to look and make sure that this gasket does not stay on there. There's a big magnet in there. I want to clean that up before I put it on the new one. See how that's kind of black, nasty looking. This one picks up any metal shavings that we may have picked up. Before I go any further, I'm going to come in here and clean that. Make sure that's nice and clean. Okay, that magnet's going to catch any heavy particles that you might have. I'm going to spin this on. Okay, so there it's contacted. So we're going to go with the eye. We'll take that one full turn. And that should be good and tight.